Welcome to In Real Time, where we as Heights Church are inviting you in for real conversations about leading people, organizations, and change in the new normal. We're hoping that our real discussions about our church's journey will help you as you reimagine and rebuild yours. Welcome to In Real Time, where we're having real conversations about leading people, organization, and change. And I would love it if you would like or subscribe, and please check the bell notification so you won't miss one episode as it drops. Well, we've got some great content for you today, but before we get to that, I've got two co-hosts with me. So why don't you two introduce yourselves?
Well, my name is Laura Coleman, and I am the communications director here at Heights Church.
Nice. And you're making your debut on the podcast today?
I am. Yeah, exciting.
You've said no up until now.
Is
So we were back on. That's good.
Yeah,
you're on. All right, good. And who is this?
I am
next
Nicole
to you?
Coleman, and I am a communications associate.
Great. So I'm gathering the two of you work together.
Yes.
Nice.
This is my daughter-in-law.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
She was Nicole Banks when she started and became
Yeah.
a Coleman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's I was all right.
Yeah.
I knew all that, of course,
Yes.
but this is our social media team. And that's what we're going to be talking about today is social media. I love the fact that we can do this. This is such an important conversation because there's a lot being said about social media. And obviously, as churches, we're engaged in this, many of us, but there's still a lot of questions out there about it. And things are changing on a regular basis when it comes to social media.
Yeah.
And I think there's some important questions that I don't think we often talk about or hear others talking about. And I think it's important for us because as Heights Church, in real time, we're having conversations about social media. And this has definitely been a journey for us over the pandemic. We've learned a lot of things.
Yeah.
And when we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, well, there's been some ugly about this. And that wasn't a reflection of you, but it was some things that we're going to be digging into today in regards to our social media. So I hope this is going to be really helpful for other church leaders and the curious to be able to really just listen in and let's see how our experience can help other people and their experience with social media. So let's just ask a really basic question, but I think it's an important one. What is social media really?
It's a place where we can engage other people outside of the church. It's kind of a direct link between us and their phones or their computers right into their home.
Yeah. And a way we can engage people outside of just what we normally do with our weekend services, right? Yeah. So we find it's a tool for engagement. It is meant to be just a way to communicate to an audience. And I think this is something that pastors, church leaders really just need to keep in mind as we think about at its basic level, it's just a communication tool.
Yeah.
That's really all it is.
Yeah, it's an opportunity to be able to reach and engage people outside of Sunday. You get to see them in person on Sunday. Most people are on social media. There's a platform to be able to just talk about, my goodness, you could pray with them. They could message you for additional information for things.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's a good opportunity.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about how we can use our social media because it's a great tool for some of those things as we dive into our conversation further. And but I know that as I said, this has been a bit of a journey for us in understanding social media and just how it's been helpful to us, and also some of the problems that it's presented and how we used it. And so let's dive into this because what it really comes down to is this idea of the strategy of social media. Because it's not like it's just sitting there with no actual goal in mind, right?
Yeah.
And but I could see where churches, organizations, even people, as they think about social media, that they don't really think of it as needing a goal or needing a strategy. Did we discover we needed a strategy in the pandemic?
We did. Yes.
We did.
We did.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, you guys were doing a great job as we entered the pandemic, and obviously we had a lot of online presence, and it was wonderful. We're engaging with our people. But because of the pandemic, there were so many different things being shared on social media, so that generated questions of, how much of this do we want to push forward, keep up on the boards? And then also when it came to things like the pandemic and people's opinions about it. Did people have opinions about the pandemic?
Oh,
Definitely.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Everything.
Everything.
Yeah, they had opinions about everything.
Vaccines, masks,
Yes.
whether we should meet,
What we
shouldn't
should
meet,
be focusing on, what they wanted to hear about.
the Illuminati.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of it. It's,
Yeah.
Do y'all know what the Illuminati is?
I don't.
You don't?
No.
Oh, I
What
thought
is
for
that?
sure you knew what that
Do you
was.
know?
Yeah,
You do?
yeah. It's like this. I don't think it actually exists, but it's supposed to be this big world order that's directing everything. Anyway, I was just making a
Okay.
joke. But anyway, so social
Something like
media has all this on it, and
Yeah.
we quickly had to figure out. Wait a minute, what do we do with all this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we really hadn't had to deal with a lot of that before the pandemic.
We didn't at all. No.
Right.
No, it was more of a platform of, I'd say, unity. You usually like-minded, I would say. People who followed us, that they were interested in what we had to say, were Christ followers. They were champions of, Heights Church and what we did here. So it was a great community.
Yeah.
But then when the pandemic hit and it became divisive,
Yeah.
everything, masks, no masks, vaccines, no vaccines, where did you stand politically?
Yeah.
And then the people who were engaging, they wanted you to take sides.
They
Yeah.
did, yeah.
Yeah, they were upset when you didn't because they thought you didn't care.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And what?
Oh, man.
Yeah, and so the intention
Yes.
for us to be intentional was we didn't. It was something I never thought we would have to deal with on
Yeah.
social
Yeah.
media. I really didn't. So what we had to do was decide if we were going to participate in this conversation or if we were just going to hold to what we were doing.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
when the conversation, when
Yeah.
you got the phone calls.
Yeah.
Hey, Craig, how do you want to handle this?
I know.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so true. And I'll tell you what it got real for me was when I got a text message from a person in our church who never texted me. I didn't even know they had my number. And they texted me and said it was midnight and they wanted to know, it was June, there was all the social unrest, and they wanted to know why I had not posted on social media about all the social unrest and why I was ignoring the situation, why I was delinquent, and they just had horrible things to say. And they said, I just spent hours combing the website. I couldn't find anything. And so, I replied back to them and said, well, I've actually spoken to this at a number of times, but it was on the weekend services. And then they said, well, that's not good enough. And I won't go to any church that isn't willing to be courageous and post these things on social media. And I quickly realized, wow, okay, so we need a strategy.
Yeah.
But more important than that, I need to tell the church what the strategy is. And I need our leaders to know what that strategy is, because there are conversations that I am willing to have and have been having for all these years as a pastor that we speak to. But social media, in my view, is not the place for it, because one post is not a conversation. That is just an affirmation of an idea, this or that. But these conversations are so nuanced. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to have a conversation with you to understand your heart, your perspective. And I want to bring you my heart, my perspective, God's heart. And I think that's important. And so I realized social media is not a big enough platform to be able to have the conversations that people want to have on social media. And it's frustrating to me that people want to have that conversation on social media. And honestly, it's the worst place in my mind to have it.
Never turns out well.
No. And I want people to hear it in my words.
Yeah.
And so I want to take the time on the weekends and I want to unpack it a little further there. I want to say more than less on social media because everybody's misunderstanding one another. And I don't know anybody who saw a post and said, "Oh, I'm convinced."
Right.
Yeah.
That's not how it works.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm here to do. And so we quickly realized we need a strategy. And so it helped us to formulate, what will we do with social media? How are we going to use it?
Yeah.
And what are we not going to use it for? And so we've definitely learned from that first year when all this was going around. And then, of course, the election showed up after that summer of unrest as well. And that only made things more wonderful, right?
Yes,
No,
wild.
it was awful.
Yeah.
And it got worse. But we were getting our legs under us a little bit better. We at least knew that we needed to have a strategy at that point. So that was the beginnings of it. So here's the point, though. That's just how we're deciding. So we decided that I would speak to these really difficult, challenging issues, social unrest, absolutely. The pandemic itself. I would do that on the weekends as I felt that it was warranted. And the things that I knew God wanted to bring to that conversation, I would do that on the weekends. And then we would use social media for other things to advertise what's going on here at the church and to really encourage people to stay connected and engaged in a discouraging world. So we had to create this strategy around social media. And it has its role, but it's not going to be the role that people want it to have.
And what was helpful too is we were able to link your video to when people did have questions about it, if they might have went into the DM, said, "What about this?
Yeah.
Why are you not posting about that?" Craig addressed that last Sunday, the Sunday before. Here, take a look at this link.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, they didn't care. They did not want to listen to it. They just wanted to be upset about it.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so you just, what can you do at that point? You just,
Yeah. And it's a good question. What can you do with that? And my answer was eventually, not right away, but eventually I came to the agreement, my wife and I both, after a lot of prayer and obviously as a staff talking about this as well, that honestly, if people aren't willing to put in a little bit of time to listen to my actual words and to listen to my heart on the topic on the weekends, I'm not going to post it on social media to make you feel better.
Yeah.
You're not invested enough here for me to worry about you.
Yeah.
And honestly, that may sound harsh, but I don't think it is. I think people are lazy that are not willing to engage with I'm talking about this in long
Right.
form.
Yeah.
Listen in. If you really want to know what I'm saying. And I think that's a very important place where I had to come to. But I liked where we landed because it allowed us to land on a strategy that I think spoke to the needs for the moment, and it helped me to get my head around what do we have to do here,
Yeah.
and not react, because I was in reacting mode, and it was it was throwing me on my heels every single day.
Yeah.
And I know it was really difficult for you because you were having to respond to people.
Yeah. Well, I know that I had called a couple of times just saying, how do you want to respond?
Yeah.
But, I trust you.
Yeah.
I really do. And I knew that God was leading you and that we would follow your lead.
Yeah.
Even though I had personal opinions as well, I might even have voiced them a little bit.
Yeah.
But that ultimately came down to how you wanted to handle it. And I
Yeah.
knew it would be handled correctly. And it was hindsight, best decision we could have made, really.
Yeah. And it has served us well
It
in
has.
this last
Yeah.
year for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those conversations don't belong on social media. I mean, I think people jump in and read comments on other posts and stuff.
Yeah.
And it never ends well.
Yeah.
It does.
It divides families, divides friends. I know there hopefully is more healing going on
Yeah.
today
Yeah.
around the things that happened 2-3 years ago that, during the pandemic and what was said.
Yeah.
And they know there is some healing, but it's not going to be the same.
Yeah.
It will always be different. Yeah.
I've been watching too other pastors who I know can say it way better than I can on social media, and it never went well. And I'm thinking, all right, if that's how it's going to go for them, I
Yeah.
know I'm out. There's no way I'm going to make this any better. I'm not going to have a better result.
Yeah.
But honestly, it was because they didn't get to share their whole heart.
Yeah.
It was left to a pithy comment here or there because that's all the room that is there. So I think it's really important that as we're talking about social media, that people need to have, churches need to have an understanding of what is your strategy going to be? What are you going to use it for? Maybe you do want to post about all of these things politically. Maybe you want to post about those things. That's fine.
Yeah, some
That's your
churches do that.
strategy. You
Yeah.
get
Some are
to
doing
do
that.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just not our choice.
Yeah.
And because I don't want to be misunderstood.
Yeah.
I want to be understood. And I don't think I can say it in a way that I can be understood on social media. So
Yeah.
if you want to talk to me, let's do it here. I want to. And so for me, that's a really clarifying decision. And I hope that for those out there that haven't figured out how to do it on social media either, that maybe that could be helpful to them as well. A little bit of freeing to just say, just because that's what people want doesn't mean that's what
Right.
people are going to get.
You bet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so a couple things about strategy. Who we're trying to reach on social media is always a niche, right? Can you explain that a little bit? It's always a bit of a niche when it comes to social media.
So for social media, we were talking about that, our niche. We started on Facebook. That was like a decade ago. We just had a volunteer come in and just start, and the followers were people who were part of our church.
Yeah.
And so then we're finding that our niche are people that attend here, and then it just really depends on your ministry as well. Because we have a few volunteers. One heads up our young adults, so her niche is going to be different. She's going to have a different audience that she reaches, and the children's would have a different audience, men, women. So us as Heights Church, we are reaching the people who attend our church and who care about Heights Church.
Yeah.
So we want to stay connected with them. Hopefully, their friends on social media see them connected to us, and then we get, maybe they'll pop in and take a look at a post, maybe what they have shared.
Right.
Yeah, so
that's
maybe they'd
good.
be interested and maybe ask about us. Yeah.
Right.
And then and there are times that if we have an outreach event or something that we want to go beyond our people, we'll do a promotion or be really intentional in getting that out into the community. You can even choose Citrus Heights. So we want this outreach, maybe worship night,
Yeah.
right. Like we had last night, that might want to might want to get that out to,
I think our trunk or treat outreach.
Absolutely.
That was a
That's a good
great
point.
example
Yeah.
of that, right? That went
example
through
of that.
social
Yeah,
media, and we
it
had a
did.
couple thousand
We did.
our neighbors
Yeah, that
here in
was
the area
fun,
show
yeah.
up. I'm like, how do these people know?
We hit on all cylinders with
yeah.
that trunk or treat.
Social media was
did.
huge
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah.
It's a great strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good, really good. And so, so Facebook hits a certain
does,
demographic.
yes.
Yes.
Sorry.
Instagram hits a demographic, and YouTube is going to hit a demographic. So, I think it's an important piece to know that each one of those really does hit a niche. It's a
Yeah.
broad brush for
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah.
but certain age groups are hanging out on one more than the other.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
going to get your people who are older are going to be on Facebook. People who are the younger generations are going to be on Instagram, and then YouTube. It's kind of for everybody. But you know how you can dive into a YouTube rabbit hole and you keep going and keep going and keep going.
Yes, I've done that many times.
Yes.
Bonsai.
Yeah. Oh,
Bonsai.
yeah, really bonsai?
Bonsai
trees.
trees. Oh, yeah. It's another podcast. No, nobody wants to hear about that. Okay, that's very good. That's very good. So social media is a tool, but it's not the whole toolkit.
Right.
Yeah, that's good. So we do have this strategy. We've talked a little bit about this, but here's a good question. Carrie Newhoff has recently written an article about this, a blog. Is social media going to grow our church?
No.
No.
Social media is not going to grow our church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So many people think it's going to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. From the rare occurrence that it does,
Yeah.
that people think that that's what social media is for,
Right.
even is to grow
Yeah.
their church.
To grow the church.
And it's not.
No. It is a rare occurrence, and in fact, Newhoff brought out someone like a Michael Todd. Is certainly it did grow his church, but he is the unicorn.
Yeah.
And I don't know anybody else on that list.
Yeah.
And And so it worked for him, but no, for all the rest of us who aren't unicorns, it is a way for us more to engage with our church.
It is.
Yeah.
Not grow our church, right?
more
So a
connection.
growing church is going to reach that group with social media rather than have social media grow our church.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
probably a good way to think about
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah.
That is a good way. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And we do gain followers every week. Not just followers here, but people that do like our content.
Yeah.
And they'll follow because they like our content. They like what we're talking about.
Yeah.
They love the reels. We've noticed that the reels get most views.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
we'll take a snippet of your Sunday sermon, or Sunday message, and then just do a highlight point, and some of them really do take off.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. Well, how about you dig into a little bit of that? How do we use our social media? What are you putting on there that people are really engaging with? So we do the reels. That's a YouTube and an Instagram
And Facebook.
and a Facebook. Oh, that's right.
Yep.
Yes,
Yeah,
too.
Facebook and
Right.
Instagram are
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
they coincide with each other, so
Yes.
you can
Look at that. I
cross-platform
just screwed that up. It's
post.
not YouTube.
But no, YouTube has shorts.
They have shorts.
Yeah,
not
same thing,
reels.
but you know,
Yeah.
it's
Nicole, she preps them every week. So,
yeah.
yeah.
It's really specific. It's like what we said earlier. People are only looking for just a tiny bit, and they don't want to be on there for a long time. They're really just scrolling.
Yeah.
So engaging, words popping out on the screen is huge. It's the reels are huge right now, and they're
Yeah.
only going to get bigger.
What's the time frame for them?
Like 60 seconds, 15 to 60 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's enough to grab somebody and say, hey, maybe you want to watch the whole
Yeah, maybe you want to see
message.
more.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Or maybe just that word is the encouragement that they need. Yeah.
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 And the
That's
views
good.
are encouraging.
Yeah.
I mean, we can get up to 1,600, even though you might get 10 or 20 views. You with a reel, you can get a couple thousand even.
Yeah.
Because it just kind of. Yeah, there was one that we did. Was that a couple months ago?
Yeah.
And we just hit. I don't know how we did this, but we ended up hitting just the right time, the right audience with the right hashtags. And within 10, 15 minutes, we had 50,000 views on a reel.
Yeah.
And that was a learning curve because we had not had that happen before.
Yeah.
And so we were scrambling. We were trying to figure out, we were trying to read the comments because they were coming in fast and furiously, making sure that they were appropriate.
Yeah.
That's your other thing is, is this
Yeah.
stuff,
Babysit it a little bit.
is this
Be careful what you
loving
wish for.
messages, right? It's true. And what we did find is that after that, because there were a few unsavory, we'd have to delete quickly because we didn't want to expose other people to them.
Yeah, we're protecting the other
Protecting,
commenters,
yeah.
the
Yeah.
audience.
Yeah. And so Nicole's on for the next 2 hours, just on the back end, blocking words,
Yeah,
just
banning
just
specific
banning
words.
specific language,
Wow.
so that we could be, so that it could be safe.
Yeah.
So
Just
yeah,
another
yeah. Be
barrier.
careful what you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is true, because or else you're going to be spending so much time just babysitting.
Yeah,
Just-
no doubt,
yeah.
no doubt. There is a tool, though, I think you were telling me about. There's a church that put out a list of words or hashtags that
Like
you,
1,000. It was
like
amazing.
1,000 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was so great because Facebook and Instagram really do take those precautions and they make sure that even if the words are similar, that they'll even take those out. It's just, they're really trying to stop what we talk about, like the trolls or the bots. We're really trying
Yeah.
to stop that hate speech, any negativity, and we're protecting those who are trying to actually engage in our community.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So when you do get someone, we call them trolls because they're trolling. What is a troll? What do they do? How would you define a troll?
Someone who is just trying to start controversy. Like we said, someone's not really willing to listen to the answer. They just want to start problems and make it hard or just make it like an unsafe spot.
Yeah,
Their goal.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it really is. They go into it
Yeah.
with that motive, and that goal is to, how can I cause division here? And we've all seen it.
Yeah.
If we're on social media, we see that one person who comes in, and I think we're social media people. We're becoming more educated, or we can see it more often. Before
Yeah.
we didn't. I think that was
'Cause it was
part of the
new.
problem.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, well, everybody gets a voice, right? No, everybody needs to be heard.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
we tolerated it.
Yeah.
And now you you don't as much. You don't see people tolerating. They'll call it out. They'll say, this is a troll.
Yeah.
Just ignore them.
Yeah.
And then they'll continue on with their conversation or discussion. And it's a good,
Yeah.
good thing.
Yeah. A lot of those people are not honest people.
No,
They're
no.
stirring up. They're stirring up on purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're doing it
Yeah.
intentionally.
They're actually targeting us specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So,
we want to have
you know,
other
Yeah.
conversations.
Well, Nicole, when we have had negative comments,
Yeah.
Nicole has such a sweetheart. She's such a sweetheart. She gets a little upset about it. She doesn't like it at all. But I always see it as, I'm like, yeah, okay, delete them. But you know what? That means we're reaching out farther.
Yeah.
Because
That's
you
right.
start to get some haters.
Yeah.
I mean, not that, you don't
No, I
want
know what
that.
you mean,
But,
yeah.
they're not just all friends or people
Right.
that are part of your community
Right.
that are getting the posts out. Maybe it's a scripture, maybe it's a reel.
Yeah.
And then you start getting a little pushback. It's like, oh, so people are watching this that aren't connected to us. So that's the positive of it.
That is the positive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it really does encourage people as well. We just don't always hear back from them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we
No,
do.
it's good.
People do.
We want
we
to
do.
we want to
yeah.
protect them from discouraging each other too.
Right. Yeah. No, that's really good. Really good. Well, I think when it comes to this whole idea of social media, it's definitely important for us to recognize what its point is, what's the goal, and then we get to choose what's our strategy. So, and when we're thinking big picture, I know there's a lot of a deeper conversations you could have about social media and how do you do this and how do you do that. But the real thing I think right now is just for us to say, what is going to be our strategy? What is our goal? What do we want to accomplish on social media? So thanks for having that conversation with us. And there's a couple of questions that I think are going to be important to ask you, social media geniuses. So we'll see how quickly this one goes here. Which platforms are worth our time right now?
You got your top 3. You got
Top 3.
Facebook, YouTube, and then Instagram in that order.
Yeah. Okay.
And those are the Facebook and Instagram because they share the same platform as Facebook owns Instagram.
Yeah.
So you can cross what we were talking about earlier is cross posting so that you're posting for the older generation and the younger generation all within the same post. Mm-hmm. And then YouTube is just video. And right now video is demand. Video is way more important than the still photo at the moment.
Yeah. So people just really like watching the video.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's really good. Really good. Okay. And that has somewhat changed over time. Depending on, like, at the beginning of pandemic, I know we leaned really heavy on Facebook. We still do.
We still do, yeah.
But we've really engaged in the Instagram
Yeah.
a lot more. Yeah.
Yeah,
Good.
but
And
we have-
definitely
yeah.
the YouTube as well.
Our church online, we broadcast our services on Facebook.
True.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that is,
And YouTube.
Yeah. No, that's really good.
good thing.
Okay. And what do you do? Because I know this is a question that's going to be out there from senior leads. What do you do as a social media team when you don't know what to do? Like, what happens when somebody DMs, direct messages you, and they didn't like what I had to say in the video or the reel that you showed, or the fact that you asked them for prayer somehow, hey, do you have a prayer request? And that made them angry and they come back at you. What do you do in a moment like that?
Depends on the person, if I can say that. If they're part of our community,
Yeah.
if they're part and their motive is, you can tell, what's their motive? Is it something do they really want to know?
Yeah.
Do they want to learn? Are they,
That's good.
yeah. So that would be a conversation that we get to
Yeah.
have with them.
Yeah.
But if it's something, if they're just angry or someone that's not even a part of us, it is, we've had those.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of an example, but I
Yeah.
can't think of
No,
an
that's
example
okay.
right now.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
no,
we
that's
have
good.
to check their heart, I
Yeah,
guess, the
gotta
best that
check
we
their heart.
can.
Yeah.
Is to discern
Yeah.
where it's coming from.
What if you don't know what to do with it? Are you just going to answer
Oh no,
regardless?
we'll talk to. Let's say if it's about. It depends. We would go to a lead, a pastor. It depends on where we think who would be the best fit to give guidance or maybe take it on.
Yeah.
They'll make a phone call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Depending on the situation. If it was about and all the civil unrest, the stuff was going on through the pandemic, I would go to you.
Yeah.
Because those were high level
Yeah.
Concern.
answers. We needed that
Yeah.
to know. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we do go to the pastors or supervisors for how do you want us to handle this?
Yeah.
A lot of times we can handle most everything that comes our way,
Yeah.
but we want to make sure we're in line with the church as well. Because it's not, Nicole
Yeah.
said that, it's not our personal platforms.
Right.
It's not our opinions.
Not our
It
feelings.
is the heart of God. It is the heart of, Heights Church. Does it line up with our goals, with our mission?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
So that's,
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love that. I love that because I think it's important that the social media piece, we understand that it's really a reflection of who we
It
are as
is,
a church,
yeah.
and I get to speak into that. But you and I have had conversations, and we continue to do so that how we want to respond to
Yeah.
these different situations. So that's really good, and I think important for any people on a social media team to understand that would be their role, and that you really want that because you're an extension
Yes.
of the church overall. You speak to a lot of people,
yeah.
and that's critically important that they would understand that. So,
And when we bring volunteers on, because
Yeah.
we're now have, I think, 3 volunteers, and they're going to be overseeing their ministry social medias.
Yeah.
But we have a training period with them because they need to know the game plan,
Yeah.
they need to know the mission, and that they need to know exactly what you said, their extension of the ministry. It's not their personal, it's going to look different.
yeah,
And we do look at their personal social medias, as well to kind of see where they're at and who they are on social media.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the conversation is this is not your personal social media. It has to reflect Heights Church,
Right.
our missions goals, our branding,
yeah.
everything. Yeah.
No, it's good.
Yeah.
That's really good. Okay, so how do you get clarity on what you are messaging? Because y'all are messaging daily. So how do you get clarity about that? How does the game plan help you with that?
Oh, the game plan's wonderful because, as you can see, just our mission, empowering people to live as devoted followers of Jesus. So every post is going to be around helping people become fully devoted followers of Jesus. But we're going to do it with our core values, with the Bible as our source. We choose a culture of grace and truth. So we're kind, and then loving God and others drives us. So it's constant love.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. So you're able to reflect this
Yeah.
clarity of the game plan in our social media. And I love that because the game plan is just such an incredible tool.
Yeah.
And I love being able to show our podcast listeners about how they can utilize this and why it's such a vital tool
Yeah.
for clarity for our entire team. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, that's really
we've
good.
had situations where we've had conversation about something and then
Yeah.
said, what does the game plan say?
Yeah.
And it makes it really clear what the answers are.
I love that.
It really does. Yeah.
So good. So
Great
good.
tool.
Okay, so if a church can only do one thing with social media, what's the one thing?
Commit to having a presence on social media and post at least maybe 3 times a week. And you can't really just do one thing, it feels like, because you have
Okay.
to have all the platforms.
Yeah.
But if it's one thing, it's a presence on social media.
Okay.
Yeah, being consistent. Because
Yeah.
what we know is if you're not consistent, Facebook doesn't think you care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they don't care.
Okay.
So they want your consistency. They want you to care. And what happens is that your people will start viewing, and then if they start liking and maybe doing some interaction and commenting, then your what you're doing, the what do you say?
The feed.
With the feed or your efforts.
Yeah.
It just give it a little while because it'll start benefiting you. But you have to put some effort in.
Yeah. And the
Yeah.
more effort you put in, then they'll push it out
Exactly,
to other
yeah.
people
Yeah.
as
Right.
well.
'Cause
More
they
than
say,
just-
okay, this is yeah.
Yeah. No, that's really good.
Care.
Okay. All right. And let's see, we talked about what to do with the trolls.
Yes.
And are there any best practices that you would suggest that we haven't already talked about?
I would say that you need to constantly be always learning, always researching, always learning what the trends are, asking other people what they want to see, look at other churches and see what they're doing.
Yeah.
Sometimes not everybody has the other answers. So some of this we had to pioneer through, like you said before, in the beginning, especially with the pandemic.
Yeah.
But the best practice is constantly learning. Never stop.
Yeah. No, that's good.
Yeah,
that's
that's good.
And making it about God, not us.
Yeah. And that's a learning process in of itself, as we've already talked about today.
That's true. Yeah.
Well, I love this, that we've been able to have a real conversation about leading people, organization, and change. So as we're wrapping up today, a couple of things to be thinking about. First of all, we want to get to clarity.
Yeah.
We want to understand the purpose, the goal, the strategy of social media. What could it be for your church, for your organization?
Yeah.
Really important. What is it you want to communicate on social media? That's an important question. And then who can help? Who can help? Because senior leads, I want you to know, I am not doing this work. I don't have time. I can't, and I don't know most of what you do, which is why this has been such a great interview. I always get enlightened every time I get to listen in. So really appreciate all that you're doing, because it does make a difference. You're able to help us as a church engage our people every single day and often throughout the day.
Yeah.
And so it's really important for our engagement. I know it enhances people's community here at Heights Church. Really important. So thanks for being with us today, ladies.
Thank you
Yeah,
for having
Thanks
us.
for having us. Yeah.
So if you like this episode, please like or subscribe. We'd love to have you. And that way, every time one new episode drops, you'll be able to get that as well. Thanks for being with us as we are in real time having conversations about leading people, organization, and change. Until next time.